Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be going through the UFC Baku card in Azerbaijan this weekend. Starting off with the opener of the card, Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Muhammad Usman. I'm going to be going with Hamdi Abdelwahab in this one. This will 100% go to a decision. Both of these guys are definitely decision merchants, and they're not very active on the feet, so I don't expect this to be an extremely fun fight. Hamdi, since pissing hot in his fight against Don'Tale Mayes, has looked really mid, and he robbed Jamahal Pogues last time over, and I don't really rate Jamahal Pogues as a fighter. I hate that Hamdi was getting schooled for 2 minutes of the second round as well by Don'Tale Mayes, as Don'Tale Mayes has proven time and time again that he's not at the top of the heavyweight division. He was diving for legs and losing on the feet to Don'Tale in that second round, and that's really a bad look because Don'Tale is a really slow guy on the feet. Historically, he can only do ground and pound in round one, and he also has no cardio. But I still think he'll take it over Muhammad Usman, just because he's got decent control on his takedowns. And the main difference between the two is that Hamdi actually is a somewhat clean striker on the feet when he's tagging you. Yet Muhammad just looks like a fish out of water when the punches are coming at him. He's usually like flinching, moving backwards, floating his hands out in front of him. He doesn't look like a natural fighter. I think he used to be a football player, and a lot of these football players, if they don't transition over to MMA early enough, they don't seem to take the shots as well as some guys. And the other thing about Usman is that he's literally always, when he's moving backwards, got his hands all the way down. So I think Hamdi will be able to find the chin. And I think he'll get. I do think that he will come to a decision, Muhammad Usman, and I think that he'll defend like an early takedown, make round one a bit difficult, but then both will gas out by round two. But Hamdi will just be able to throw his one shot at a time and will probably land most of them. He also doesn't wince whilst getting hit every time, so I think that Hamdi will be able to take this one by a 30-27 decision. Moving on, we've got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maxim. I think Tagir will probably take this one. I wish that he got a ranked matchup, though. I feel like it's been unranked only matchup since 2021, and he's only fought one ranked guy at the time, which was Tim Elliott in 2022, and that was the only guy I lost to that was ranked. I don't like how Cody Durden in their fight was able to tag Ulanbekov, because I do think Azat is a much better striker than Cody Durden, but I think that the reason why he was able to land so many shots on him was because Durden shoots so many takedowns, so his overhand right was the one that was tagging Ulanbekov, and that looks the exact same as his takedown. The thing is, though, is on the feet, I still think Azat will be the much better striker, as he was able to outstrike Charles Johnson early in their fight, tagging him, hurting him. He was able to drop him as well in that first round, but then in the later second and third round, Johnson was able to out-grapple him in moments, out-scramble him as well. It was a razor-close fight, but he was still able to do more in the grappling. And I think that Tagir is a better grappler than Charles Johnson. So I think that this is going to be a somewhat close fight. I reckon it will be like a 29-28 decision, as that's definitely the better striker with some good power, fast hands, versatility, attacks the body really well. And Tagir is somewhat slow on the feet, but I think that the strength and wrestling pedigree of Ulanbekov will be able to get him the win for this one. I think it'll probably be a 29-28 decision, really close fight, with Azat winning the first, being the faster and more electric fighter, and then Ulanbekov able to win the second and third just by being a more active on the ground, shooting takedowns, getting the takedowns, and just being overall more efficient in that second and third round, taking the win by 29-28 decision. Moving on, we have Irina Alekseeva versus Claudia Saigula. I think Alekseeva will probably take this one. I think it's a somewhat easy matchup for Alekseeva, seeing what Saigula isn't very good at. Alekseeva is very good on the ground. She's really aggressive on the feet. Her boxing is sometimes very mid because she throws hooks and overhands with her arm completely straight, so I doubt that she'll be able to hurt Saigula, but she does like to smother her opponent, so I think that she'll be able to smother Saigula, get some takedowns on her, and that's where Saigula is the worst. She's not very good at getting up from the ground and defending jiu-jitsu position, and she's not a very powerful striker on the feet, so I think that Alekseeva will be able to walk through the shots on the feet and then get like a first round submission after she gets her to the ground. She got a good submission, a good leg lock over, I think it was her last opponent. Moving on, we have Daria Zalesnikova versus Melissa Dixon. This was the rematch we've all been waiting for. This was 100%. We don't want Gaethje Poirier 3. We want this one. This is the rematch we needed. So, in all seriousness, they fought in the regional scene, and Melissa Dixon was able to get a win after 4 minutes and 59 seconds of the first round. But in that fight, Daria on the feet looked the much better striker. Like, it was incomparable. I think Melissa Dixon probably only landed 4 or 5 strikes to Daria's 30 in the first part of the round. And I think Daria has had some struggles with takedown defense in the past, but it seems that she's improved it a little bit. And I think if she could even make adjustments to her takedown defense in that first fight and was a little bit less rushed in her striking, I think that she'll be able to take her in like a close, every round's close, but she somehow gets like a 30-27 decision. And I think although they've gotten a lot better, I think that Daria was always the much better striker. And at one point, Melissa Dixon was the much better grappler. But I think that Daria has since seen the hole in her game, and she'll at least be able to survive on the ground. And when they're on the feet, Daria is going to piece her up on the feet. So I think that she'll probably get this maybe a 29-28 decision or a 30-27. Moving on, we have Ismail Nadaev versus Park Jung-young, or Young Jung Park. I think the Iron Turtle's going to get this, Young Jung Park. This is just because I think Ismail Nadaev is not active enough on the feet. He doesn't throw too much. He gets pushed backwards by a lot of opponents. And Young Jung Park is a much more active fighter. He's constantly in your face. And especially with a guy that does back up sometimes, like Nadaev, and get inactive. Someone like Jung Young Park literally will just start laying on him. And he will just pressure him until he's just got no more space to run. He's got some really mad body shots as well as soon as he gets his opponent hurt. He's got really good finishing instincts as well. And he's got a great chin. And I think that Nadaev is going to be deterred when he realizes that his power is not having the same effect on Jung Young Park. And he'll start to feel claustrophobic because Jung Young Park will literally just start crowding him and making him fight his fight. I'm guessing second round TKO KO by Jung Young Park. Moving on, we have Song Hyung Ko, versus Oban Elliott. I reckon Oban's got this. Song Hyung Ko looked good in his last performance against Igor Cavalcanti, but upon researching Cavalcanti a little bit further, he's literally never trained takedown defense in his life. Like, I'm not saying he actually hasn't, but it looks like he hasn't across all of his fights. He's always had a trouble with that. And Igor literally never fought opponents with a positive record. He never fought a prospect, never fought someone good. So it was really no-brainer why Song Hyung Ko was able to actually get the win over a guy like Cavalcanti. And I think it's just a rough stylistic matchup for his debut in the UFC. Basil really struggled to get a guy like Oban Elliott down, and I do rate his takedowns a bit more than Song Hyung Ko. I think that Basil Hafez's takedowns are a bit more powerful, so it would have been able to catch Oban Elliott off when he wasn't expecting it, and maybe be able to get him down whilst he's shooting or whilst he's throwing. But I think in this matchup, the kicks will probably hurt Song Hyung Ko a lot, and once the kicks start to land, it'll open up the chin for the shots, like it did in the last fight with Basil Hafez and Oban Elliott. And I think that Oban's going to eventually just end up teeing off on him at some point, just getting a KO in the first round after defending maybe 2 or 3 takedowns. Moving on, we've got Muhammad Naimov versus Bogdan Grad. I think Bogdan Grad can get the win over Muhammad. I think although Felipe Lima is an amazing prospect, it's a bad look when a prospect can get a finish on you when they're the division below you in weight rankings. Like, Felipe Lima is definitely a bantamweight-sized guy. He's definitely not a featherweight-sized person. And he was just able to outmuscle, outskill, and just outdo Muhammad Naimov in their fight. And the thing is about Muhammad Naimov is that his best win was a legitimate robbery decision that should have been a draw over Nathaniel Wood. And Nathaniel Wood got nut-shotted twice. There was fence grabs, glove grabs. So I just don't think he's going to be able to get away with that consistently in his fights. I think Bogdan Grad is good at securing his positions a lot against the fence and in grappling positions. In his first fight in the UFC, he rushed those positions too much. I don't think he'll do the same in this fight. He seems to have very good pressure and a lot of power, and I don't think that Naimov has that same sort of power on the feet. And he does shoot a lot more, so it's going to give Muhammad Naimov a lot more to think about throughout their fight. And positionally in the grappling, I think I've seen Muhammad Naimov make too many decisions to be able to pick in this one. I know that Bogdan Grad is less tested in the UFC, but I still think that he'll be able to eke out a grappling heavy decision, maybe like a 29-28, just being able to outwork Muhammad Naimov in a lot of those positions. Moving on, we've got Nazim Sadikov versus Nicholas Motta. I've got Nazim Sadikov in this one. I think Motta is probably a really good opponent for Nazim to face and look like a world beater. Nazim has faced a lot more dangerous opponents than this, and he's sort of regressing in terms of competition strength when he's coming to this fight against Nicholas Motta. I think in almost every aspect in this fight, Nicholas Motta is going to be outmatched in. He's shorter than Sadikov. He's just not... although obviously they're way the same, Nicholas Motta is sort of a pudgy built guy, whereas Nazim Sadikov is a lot more heavy set. He seems like a more athletic person. He's a lot faster than Nicholas Motta. Motta has a lot of good power, but I think that Sadikov also has the same sort of power. I think that this fight is going to be... Round 1 is going to be somewhat close. I think Sadikov is probably going to out-tit-for-tat him. And then some point in round 2, I think he's going to shoot a takedown. I think that the Serra Longo gym is really good at game planning, and they'll know that Nicholas Motta won't be as good as Sadikov on the ground. And Sadikov's good with his cardio. He's good at energy management, so he's not going to gas himself out before the fight. And I think Motta, although he's hard to take down, I think that Sadikov... As soon as it gets to like round 2 and 3 and he starts to overwhelm Motta, I think he'll be much easier to take down. And he's going to be able to have... Sadikov's going to be able to have control over wherever the fight takes, whenever he needs it. And I think he finishes Motta by submission after dropping him in the second round. Moving on, we've got Tafik Musayev versus Miktabek Oralbai. I'm just saying Oralbai is going to absolutely clean up Musayev. I'm not sure if many people have seen many of Musayev's fights, but I'm not sure if you have seen him, you'll think that Oralbai should be like a 4-1 favorite against Musayev. I'm really annoyed at this matchmaking. I think Oralbai just having a standout performance against Roundbetsky is just like it's sort of like a top 15 ranked fight against Roundbetsky, and it was a split decision. So he shouldn't really be getting a step down the rankings. He should be getting another one of these guys who are like just outside the lightweight rankings or just inside the lightweight rankings. Maybe like a Manuel Torres would have been a fight that would be good for Oralbai. But in terms of this actual matchup, I think if you watch Musayev, he's a pretty good fighter. He's quite technical. He's got good... Like all the techniques that he throws look really clean. His takedowns are good. But I just don't think he's got the deepest tool bag compared to a guy like Miktabek Oralbai. If you see Oralbai fight, he literally always uses all of his skills from whatever he's training at that time. He's always shooting takedowns. He's pushing you up against the fence, doing some head movement, throwing punches with all ill intent. Throws kicks as well. Like he's got a much deeper tool bag than Musayev. He actually uses a full MMA game. And even though Musayev does almost all of those things, he just doesn't do it actively. He'll throw like 3 shots in, maybe like 2 to 3 shots a minute. And he's just not an active enough fighter for me to think that he's going to be able to give Oralbai any problems. He's too one-dimensional compared to Oralbai, where Oralbai will sprint in, get some punches off, push you up against the cage, shoot a takedown. If he fails it, he'll be going back to the cage. He's constantly active. He'll be shooting knees on you, elbowing you. He's going for everything, whereas Musayev is more so like stand at range, feint, throw a couple of right hands, throw a jab, throw a leg kick, shoot a takedown, then not do anything and feint at range for 3 minutes. And those 3 minutes where he's usually feinting at range in Bellator, Oralbai is just going to be just teeing off on him against the fence, just beating the shit out of him. I think that Musayev will probably turn into a punching bag by round 2. And I think that the age is going to really hurt him in this one. He's already 35, and the people that come from Bellator at that age, they don't have enough time to adjust to the UFC and the styles and the harder fights that you'll have in the UFC. So I think Oralbai is going to drown him in the first 2 rounds and maybe submit him in the 3rd round. Maybe with like a rear naked choke after not dropping him, but after just making him super tired. and just sort of mocking him and just submitting him in the third round. Moving on, we've got Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. I've got Curtis Blades in this one. I'm not sure why Rizvan was giving Curtis Blades in his first UFC fight ever. I think he would have had a better chance against like a Mick Parkin or someone low, like a Taito Avasa, or even give him Don'Tale Mays and remove him from the roster. But I think Curtis will absolutely annihilate Rizvan. Rizvan's best performance was when he was on steroids against Renan Ferreira. And overall in this fight, I just think that Curtis has every advantage in the book. He's a better wrestler, he's a better striker, he's got more experience, he's a tougher guy. He's fought these really difficult opponents like a Sergey Pavlovich. And the thing is that he's also, I don't care if they say that Rizvan Kuniev is 6'4". He's not the same height as Curtis Blades, and we'll see that when they weigh in and when they face off. And the other thing is that Curtis Blades is 4 inches in reach on him, and even that doesn't sound right. I feel like Curtis Blades has literally the longest arms bar John Jones in the UFC. So I think he'll be able to keep Rizvan out of his range when Rizvan's trying to go for his boxing. Rizvan likes his hooks and his straight punches. I think he'll go for them on Curtis Blades, but Curtis Blades will be able to just duck straight under it for a takedown. And I just don't see Rizvan as the type of guy to get inside quick enough to get a KO on Curtis Blades. We've seen this year that a lot of these fighters that are outside of the UFC with good records just aren't doing that well. So a guy with not a strong record, predominantly fighting out of the Eagle FC and PFL, I expect that to get destroyed against some guy who's been fighting former champions and Hall of Famers like Curtis Blades. So not saying Curtis Blades is the Hall of Famer, saying he fought a couple. So I think that Curtis Blades will probably be able to get Kuniev down the first round. We'll see Kuniev at the end of the round just absolutely gassed. And then in the second and third round, it'll just be Curtis Blades teeing off on him in mount or something like that and getting a TKO in either the second or third round. Moving on, we have Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I think Bahamondes takes this fight. This is a striker's delight. If you have any friends that aren't into UFC yet, get them to watch the top 2 fights on this card. Like, if I had any friends that hadn't watched any UFC for a while, I would tell them to watch this fight. This is going to be an amazing fight. It's like a mirror matchup, but different size fighters. But this is going to be really hard to predict. And not only is it going to be hard to predict, I predict it'll be a hard fight to judge. I think that this will be a really close fight. In Fiziev's last 3 fights, actually, he's had 2 razor close fights with Justin Gaethje and 1 injury to Gamrot. But that looks like it was going to be a close fight too. But Bahamondes has looked like a world beater in his last 3 over Jalen Turner, Ignacio Bahamondes, and Christos Giagos. But he did have a loss to Ludovic Klein back in 2023. I don't think that's a bad loss. Controversially, I would have picked Ludovic Klein if he got matched up against Rafael Fiziev, but besides the point, I think that this fight will really come down to the second round. That's because Fiziev, I'm burping, but that's because Fiziev literally cannot lose a first round. With his explosive kicks and punches, the sound of them, even if they don't leave any visible damage, the judges love to see that, and they'll always give him a first round. He always usually deserves it, but it's because he's super active and he kicks so hard in the first. So they just feel like a baseball bat, or it looks like a baseball bat is hitting someone when he's kicking someone in the first round. So he's definitely going to get the first in this fight as well. But in the third round, like all Rafael Fiziev fights, he will gas out, and he will not be as powerful. His kicks won't be as loud. His shots won't be as whap, 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 whap. They'll be a lot more soft, and they'll be a lot slower coming. So I think that Bahamondes will definitely take that third round. So it all literally comes down to the second. Why I think that Rafael Fiziev will lose this fight, though, I think he's just going to use too much effort to get past the range in round 1 of Bahamondes. He has to do more movements to get closer to Bahamondes. And if he's already getting tired fighting a guy like Gaethje, who he's a hittable guy, he doesn't have the best footwork. He doesn't move away from shots that much. He usually tries to slip and dodge them. He tries to get you to punch over his head or punch into his forehead. Whereas Bahamondes will back up, he'll use his footwork, he'll try to make Fiziev miss. And I think that Fiziev's going to have to throw more feints. and throw more punches, throw more kicks, and he'll have to throw longer combinations to be able to land on Ignacio Bahamondes. I don't think against Gaethje he was able to throw like a jab and then a body kick right behind it, and the body kick would land. I think against Ignacio, with the range of Ignacio and the footwork of Ignacio, Ignacio's not going to be there for that second shot. So what Rafael will have to do is he'll have to feint, throw the jab, maybe throw a right hand behind it, maybe throw a body shot behind it, and then throw the kick so it lands. So he's going to have to throw, usually he would do like a 3-punch Muay Thai combination. He might have to throw like a 4, 5, 6 punch kick combination to be able to catch Ignacio Bahamondes out. And if he's having to do that, I think that he's going to get tired during that second round, and Bahamondes will recognize that. And he's got just the deeper tool bag out of the two. I know Fiziev is pretty decent on the ground, but in that second round, after they've had an explosive match off in the first, that Fiziev will win. I think Fiziev's going to be too tired to deal with the deep tool bag of a guy like Ignacio Bahamondes. I think Bahamondes in that second round, as soon as he realizes that Fiziev is getting tired, or even just at the beginning of the round, I could see him shooting in that round and pushing him up against the cage. We thought that against Jalen Turner it was going to be another striker's delight, but it wasn't the case. He went straight for the takedown, and I think he will have a similar game plan in this, but I don't know if he'll do it in the first or the second. If he does use those takedowns in the second, though, I think he will take that round, and he'll be able to take the third round from a guy like Rafael Fiziev. And I think that this is going to be a razor-close 29-28 loss for Fiziev, and Bahamondes is going to take the win. So this is a really close fight. It's pick him, and it will be such a fun fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. But let's move on to the main event of the card. We have Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Rountree. I think in this matchup, Jamahal Hill will get the win. I love this fight. This will probably be fight of the night just because it's over 5 rounds. And it is somewhat of a similar matchup to the fight before, but it's a little bit different. I think people will look at the last 2 performances from Jamahal Hill and write him off. But if you look at the way that he lost to both of those guys and look at the styles of both of those fighters, it's because they almost like out-slicked him, especially Yuri, where they would bait him to throw something, and then they would catch Jamahal Hill out. So if you remember in the Alex Pereira fight, he ended up baiting Jamahal Hill, even though it was just after the nut kick. He baited Jamahal Hill to throw that, I think it was just straight left hand, and catch him with the left hook. And the same thing with Yuri Prohaska. He baited him to throw, I think it was the right hand, and Yuri stepped through the combination with some head movement and just banged him with, I think it was a straight left. So these guys that are beating him, they're beating with these slick techniques that Jamahal Hill may not know are coming. Like it's not something that you know that Yuri is going to do that movement. You know that Pereira is going to do that movement. Whereas Khalil isn't really that type of striker if you watch him. He usually gets tagged with a lot of shots, even in the fights that he's winning, even in those first 2 rounds from Pereira. He gets caught at the end of a lot of people's shots. Like, he's not as good at range as he is in the pocket. He usually leaps in with his shots, and his feints are more so not to draw out a reaction, but to make you drop your hand so he can come over with his straight punches. And I think that sort of style probably won't work on Jamahal Hill. I think that you need to be a bit more slick to get Jamahal Hill out of there with something like that. And historically, he's not been as elusive because this is Khalil Rountree. Historically, he's not as elusive because he's got really good speed and explosiveness, so he doesn't usually need to be elusive or set traps like that. And his fight against Pereira was really good, but I think it's stylistically a difficult fight to Pereira because he's got that speed, and Pereira is a ploddier fighter. So I think this is actually a really good stylistic matchup for Jamahal Hill. And Khalil literally isn't a trap setter. He doesn't feint a lot. More of his feints are to enter the pocket. They're not to draw out reactions. With saying that, I do think that he could still rock Jamahal Hill. He does like to go first and tag you, and I could see Jamahal Hill trying to swat at him with that check hook. But I just don't see it. I really don't see it, especially since he's the faster fighter in round 1 and 2. I think that Jamahal Hill's going to know that and be really standoffish in those first two, not try to counter him that much. Maybe just try to get reads, try to get his timing on a guy like Khalil. And if he can't get Jamahal Hill out of there in those first two rounds, it'll look like Jamal's fighting a different opponent in rounds 3, 4, and 5, because he'll be able to tag him constantly with the straight punches at range, as Khalil won't be able to reach Jamahal Hill as easily once his explosiveness has gone in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Khalil uses tons of energy to explode, and maybe Jamahal Hill can game plan more clinch and takedowns to sort of provoke him into exploding and make him use that gas tank more. And another thing is that if Jamahal Hill doesn't walk in with these knee sleeves, I'm going to be considerably more confident, because he'll throw more leg kicks. And Khalil has been known as this guy with really good leg kicks, yet he never throws them. Jamahal Hill has actually sneaky good leg kicks. If you've watched his fight, with his fight with Pereira, he was keeping up leg kick for leg kick before he got brutally KO'd. So I think if Jamahal Hill can shoot, he can use the clinch, do some dirty boxing, lots of knees and elbows, and he can also do some leg kicks to slow down Khalil. I think Khalil will look like a completely different fighter in round 3, 4, and 5. Not saying Khalil can't leap forward with a left hook or a right hook and just sleep Jamahal Hill because he's got KO'd twice in a row. I'm not saying he can't do that, but I just think stylistically this is a different matchup to the people that are KOing Jamahal Hill. So I will be taking Jamahal Hill, I would say maybe around 4 TKO, maybe around 3 TKO. And I think that this is going to be a really fun fight. I reckon that Khalil will win the first 2 rounds, and then we'll see Jamahal Hill either take over and win in the 3rd or take over and win in the 4th. So looking forward to this fight. Let me know what you think of my predictions in the comments section below. And like and subscribe as always. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.